Hi, Mike. Nice to see you today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much, considering the crazy times we now live in. And it's great to be here talking with you. And this just kind of confirms my belief that the paradigm of how business will be conducted and continue to be conducted over the years will be really enhanced by great video conferencing and people having confidence that you can understand the nuances of who you're talking to over video. It's quite amazing.
So, Mike, you're sitting in South Carolina, and I'm sitting in London. It's 34 degrees in London and incredibly hot and sweaty. How is it over there?
It would be equivalent to your 34 degrees, very hot. And I must admit, I got my first sunburn yesterday sitting in the pool. So, but I can deal with that, I guess. It's not that bad.
So as a quick introduction, let me just explain our relationship together. Mike is a mentor of mine and great friend, and has helped me massively over the last sort of 7 or 8 years of my business career, and very kindly agreed to come and be interviewed for us. Mike, give us a bit of a summary of what it is that you do, not just your career, but the other things that you do as well.
I guess I would break my career into 2 pieces. And one piece is my core business, which is executive search, on a retained executive search in the insurance industry. And the other one is what I would call my world of avocations. And that is because I come from a background of music. I have a high degree of a need for creativity. I involve myself with a lot of things outside of the search world, which includes primarily building businesses from scratch, but businesses that I'm attracted to, and for example, sports consulting, the music industry, the restaurant business. And probably most recently and the most satisfying is the ability to build business organizations or approach to how to help military veterans and their spouses enhance their lives through education. So I've created charities. I'm involved with creating destinations for military people who are affected by PTSD, things that I feel are important at this stage of my career to give back. And to leave that, my legacy is not to be just that I was a successful recruiter and entrepreneur, but also a very successful in creating meaningful relationships with people that are in need.
So, Mike, you are 81 years old, I think, aren't you?
That's correct.
81 years old, still working incredibly hard. You've still got your fingers in numerous different businesses, every day motivated, massive output. Why? I
believe that, and certainly I've learned this in my business, and I would say this is certainly about my view of life. I think that the most important thing to understand about our lives is our self-worth, how we view our self-worth. And my self-worth is to be busy, to work hard, to help people, to be creative. It's all about self-worth. So every morning I wake up looking forward to what am I going to do today, rather than sit around and do nothing and be bored and try to find ways to keep busy. I'm always driving toward enhancing my self-worth within my own mind. And I remember in one time a person very important to me once said, what do you attribute your level of success to in the executive search world? And I said, for me, it's very simple. I have this overwhelming need to be loved. So that means that I will do most anything I can do to make the person that I'm dealing with like me, and like me for more than just, I don't want people to think I'm greedy. I don't want people to think I have a motive. I'm doing it out of pure desire to do good and to create a better sense of self-worth.
And the output of that has been an incredibly successful search practice, which has been going on for 50 years. I wanted to ask you, what was the first thing that actually attracted you to the insurance industry?
Well, I needed a job to start with.
Good answer.
When I graduated from college, I had an opportunity to go work for an insurance company, a life insurance company, which was called a debit insurance company, basically weekly premium, but a big one. And I was hired to be a management trainee for 2 years, worked in every department of an insurance company. When I got out of that, I ended up becoming a systems programmer, ended up doing Fortran and COBOL programming early on, left the company after 6 years, and I was in the military, so I was a veteran. I left the company after 6 years, went to work for a paper company as a COBOL programmer. And then I did that for a couple of years, realized I was a terrible programmer and didn't like it at all. Yeah. And I got a call one day from a guy who was a recruiter in the insurance business who knew that I worked in an insurance company and was looking for basically a gopher, somebody to assist him. And he offered me a job on a 100% commission, which I, at the time, didn't realize what it was. The first day I was on the job, I realized I was born to do this because it was all about relationships. Mm-hmm. And that's been my mantra my whole life, is creating enduring and deep relationships of trust. And the whole thing about consulting, whether it be in recruiting, whether it be in actuarial work, whether it be in any kind of consulting, you're really selling trust. And so I found that I had the ability to get people not only to like me, but to trust me.
How's the industry changed across your 50-year career in it?
Well, when I started in the insurance business, there's no question. It's interesting why. The insurance industry was a real lemming industry. So what happened was there were very few leaders and everybody was a follower. And it was just because of the basic structure. These were financial organizations that really, for the most part, even 50 years ago, they really were more concerned about return on their investments, their assets, not so much about new business, because new business, although it provided the assets, it was also costly. So what I found out is that in the early years, because it's government, it's regulated by the government, every single company every year publishes all their details and results, and everything about them is documented. Okay, so if you wanted to develop new product, all you had to do is go to the state insurance department, pull up the companies that had this particular kind of product. You could literally copy it. So what happened was the companies were not stepping out, doing creative, entrepreneurial things more for their customer base. They were doing more for themselves in terms of their asset base. So companies followed each other for years and years and years until universal life insurance, which was in the UK would be called unit life insurance. I think that's what the term was. The universal life insurance was created in the US, and it was essentially, and they lowered the commission rates dramatically for selling that product because of the way that universal life was set up. That had a big impact on the industry. In fact, the industry pushed back immediately to say this is a bad idea, bad product. It deviated from the norms. But in fact, it actually did change the whole industry, because companies then had to deal with these new products. They were better. They were more consumer focused. And if somebody wanted to sell it, they got a lesser commission, but they could sell more of the business. That was the first impact on how distribution was affected within the industry. So the big changes to me in the insurance industry is, number one, driven by technology, number two, driven by distribution, and number three, driven by how companies were led. Most companies in 30, 40, 50 years ago, all the CEOs came out of sales. So they had a certain style that drove companies looking to drive sales. In the last 30 plus years, it's been more people coming out of the actuarial side, finance side, operations side, people that are looking at the spreadsheets and trying to figure out how not only to sell, but how to make money off of selling. So that was a big change. And then what happened is there was a whole new era of consolidated brokers, led by a number of organizations. But effectively what it was taking brokers and creating a kind of a consolidation for the purpose of negotiating with companies for better terms and better commissions. So you had all these what they call BGAs, brokerage channel agencies, that would get pooled together, independent, under a umbrella business. And so, for example, there was the biggest BGA was LifeMark, and LifeMark had maybe a couple hundred insurance agents that coalesced underneath them, and then they would go in and negotiate with companies to get better commissions as a group. rather than individually. So now what's happening is that companies were looking more toward distribution changes in how brokerage firms sold business, how marketing companies stepped in, they're what they called IMOs, stepped in to market different products. So companies were realizing that they could bring their unit cost down for sales by going more toward the independent route, and rather than the career agency systems where they were actually subsidizing all their agents. So now it became a money play. Distribution was changing dramatically, going towards brokers, going towards the BGAs and the managing general agents. And then M Financial Group stepped in. And M was at the high end of the market. And they created an incredibly interesting, agent-owned organization, so that the agents ended up owning the reinsurance company that M had set. So distribution, again, was becoming more sophisticated. The agent force was aging. And the aging of agents created a real problem. They were not replacing the older agents that were leaving with newer young agents. Nobody was coming into the agency system in the way it was before. And the major companies, even Northwestern Mutual and others, were changing how they were looking at selling business. So there's a constant pressure on distribution, constant looking at new ways. And guess what? Technology comes to fore. And all of a sudden, companies realize that they can sell products, if it's direct to consumer or otherwise, at a much lower price. And one of the important reasons for that was there was this huge term war between about a dozen companies. And they were driving the profit margins to such a small degree that nobody was making money off selling term insurance. Now, bring in technology where you could do direct to consumer, you can bring that cost down dramatically. So all of a sudden, there are new products, or old products, which are new products, because now you could reach a whole new middle market, which is really where the opportunity exists. The opportunity exists in the middle to lower middle markets for growth going into the future. The high-end markets are really well served by the M Financials, by the Pacific Lives, by the companies that understand how to sell estate planning products, tax products that are workable. So now that the technology is entered in and going to direct to consumer or otherwise, technology is now the critical difference and the critical change that's going on in distribution in the insurance industry. Unfortunately, management hasn't, and I talk management, I'm talking about the very senior leadership, have not caught up to what perhaps a lot of the people internally in their organizations realize, that they need to dramatically move much more quickly toward this technology change in the paradigm.
Let me just ask you a quick clarifying question, because for me, it's been quite a surprise to be around this industry for 7 or 8 years. Continually be seeing year after year that the volume of life insurance policies falls. How is, I'm talking globally now, how is that linked to what you're talking about now, these policies falling, or the number of policies falling? Is that to do with the sort of change of emphasis at the top of these organizations?
If I understand your question well, the change is that the distribution, the people selling the products are disappearing. And they're not, and the companies haven't learned or figured out how to fill up the funnel in terms of sales. So so for the last probably 30 years, every year, the policy sale count has dropped.
Yes.
So every year there's less and less business sold. On the other hand, the companies that have excelled over the last decade have been selling high-end products, basically based on taxes, estate planning, other things that are critical to wealthy people. So they're selling them, and they're selling much different kinds of products, whether there was, a big rush for years on annuities, the increase in RIAs, the investment advisor world has gotten dramatic. So that probably will not change a lot. I think there is still a great market at the high end, and those companies that are in it pretty much own it.
Yes.
But they don't do much business in the mid-market. And the reason they don't is because their distribution systems are too expensive to service and reach the mid-market.
Yeah. Oh,
without a question, this is my observation, that because of COVID, people have been all of a sudden awakened to the need for insurance, whether it's life insurance, health insurance, whether it's income replacement, whether it's whatever it is. People are not all of a sudden realizing that they have inadequate insurance protection. That is certainly true for the mid-market. And I say the mid-market, that's totally underserved market in this country, in the world, actually, because it's expensive to market to these people unless you do it in a platform like through technology, direct to consumer marketing, digital marketing, things of that sort. So the business has changed and will continue to change, but the need won't change. I think, in fact, the need will continue to grow, certainly in the mid-market, because people will need to find an inexpensive way to protect themselves. And right now, it's pretty hard to do with going through these companies that have expensive agency systems.
What, yes, certainly our experience through COVID has been exactly this. We've seen a kind of an increased rate of conversion from our clicks to sales, which seems to imply that people are taking life insurance more seriously. So we might see a rise in volumes over the next few years. Mike, as you look at the industry now, what really excites you going forward?
It's really interesting. This is an industry, people would not necessarily believe it, but a lot of people that are very, very involved in the industry feel good about what they're doing. They feel this is an industry where they're really helping, and that means a lot. And I think and that's very true. I think the insurance industry has lots and lots of tools to really impact the lives of many, whether it be protection, whether it be investments, whether it be different kinds of products like annuities, or in essence, there's a real need there. And the thing that excites me is that, believe it or not, I think everybody is wakening up to the fact that it needs to change. This has not been an industry that's been easy to change. And even getting the attention of a lot of leadership now is being forced upon them because of the changes impacting their organization. So I think the exciting thing for me, and certainly for Rocket or any company that is a service provider to the insurance industry, is that there's no ceiling to opportunity. As long as you can be really clever, really creative, and persistent.
Mike, it's very helpful. Tell us what's next for you. What are you working on at the moment?
Next for me is to continue to find ways to be busy for the next 30 years. If I can do that, and I sincerely mean that. I have too many friends and too many people at my age that I come involved with who are so bored, so feel they don't have enough meaning in their life, that it really does impact them. And I'm just the opposite. I'm enthusiastic because I have all these opportunities. I have all these incredible relationships that I've developed for 50 years. And people that have been great to me, and I've always tried to do great things for them. And I'm really excited about the prospect of working in the new world of technology, because I'm learning every day. I get pulled into it. I have something to offer, and my offer, of course, is relationships and companies. It's not that I have any technical knowledge, but there's an endless number of projects that we're working on. Every one of them is some fashion, and through Intrex, or our consulting consortium, but every one of them has a technology piece to it. And to a large degree, I think lead generation is critical, and what companies are looking for is a great lead generation capability. And I think that's one of the things that Rocketer really has done extraordinarily well with.
Thank you. Mike, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for your time.